So thank you all for joining us. Thank you for all the speakers who have joined us, taking time out of their days. If you're not a speaker, please don't forget to mute yourselves. As the flyer stated, which you might have seen when you registered for the event, for the first half hour, so probably till about 6:40, since we got a late start, we'll be doing a panel discussion. Sophia George is going to be our moderator. And so we'll be asking our panelists some questions and talking about specific items. And then for the second half of the hour, we will break out into small breakout rooms. And you'll have an opportunity to speak with each of our speakers one-on-one, ask them questions and talk and network. So with that, I will turn it over to Sophia to get us started. Sophia?
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Like Adela said, what we're going to do is spend the first half hour just kind of going through and talking to the panelists, and I'll ask some questions that I think would be beneficial to the whole group. But to make this more of a benefit to you guys, we want to use the second half of the hour to go into breakout rooms and give you a chance to network on a more intimate level with each of the panelists and ask questions you might have that I may not have covered. Before we get started, I do want to thank our sponsor, Denise Peterson, for the lovely door prizes. While we are in the breakout rooms, we will be drawing names for each door prize, and Adela will be putting those names in the chat as she draws them. You will get a 1-minute reminder before it's time to switch breakout rooms, at which point we'll switch the panelists, but you will stay in the same breakout room. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and get started. Just so we're clear, on my screen, I see Chevazz, Jessie, and Ephraim. And so I'd like to start in that order with this first question. I just want you guys to go ahead and introduce yourselves to everyone. So Chevazz.
Yeah, hey everyone. Good evening, Chevazz. And I am happy to be here. And anything in particular, Sophia? You
yeah. I mean, what do you do? And so we know that Chevazz is a partner in Jackson Walker. He is a litigator. What kind of cases do you work on? You mainly landlord-tenant, I believe, right?
Yeah, I'm a general commercial litigator. So I represent businesses of all kinds in a variety of business and commercial disputes. Over the past, I would say 5-6 years, I've developed a specialty in real estate, representing landowners, land managers, and land developers. And within that, representing commercial landlords and some commercial tenants too. Bottom line is I'm a fighter. That's what I do. And most days I like it. Some days, I'm like, I need that beach, but that's me.
Jessie?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thank you to the committee for putting this on. My name is Jessie Herrera. I'm a patent attorney, partner at Patterson Sheridan. We're an intellectual property boutique here in Houston. I went to South Texas College of Law, to UT in Austin for my undergraduate, studied mechanical engineering. And I'm on the transactional side of intellectual property. So, Chevazz is fighting out in the courtroom. My venue is actually the United States Patent and Trademark Office in Alexandria, Virginia. So I'm kind of advocating in that venue for our clients to try and get patents, copyrights, trademarks on all the technologies, their brand that they're trying to protect. And so I appreciate the opportunity to share some of my experience with you all this evening.
Thank you. Ephraim?
Yeah, I'm Ephraim del Pozo, and first of all, I'd like to say I'm very honored to be on this panel, but I'm extremely honored to be on a panel that includes Jessie and Chevazz. Both are two extremely well-known and great lawyers in the city of Houston. I went to South Texas College of Law too. I'm a different kind of student. When I went to law school, I was already in my 30s, already had a family, had already worked some, but I got some encouragement to go to law school. To me, law school was fantastic. I worked really hard. I was given a good opportunity coming out of law school to work at a firm that's no longer in existence. That was called Hutchison and Grundy, but the person I worked with after Hutchison and Grundy dissolved, we went over to Porter Hedges. and I've been there for 22, going on 23 years. I'm also I'm a transactional lawyer. I do everything that Chevazz doesn't do, and vice versa. You know, we negotiate a lot of large transactions. Most of my transactions that I work on are oil and gas related, but they're mainly in the finance side. So I represent a lot of commercial banks, a lot of financial institutions who provide debt to the oil and gas industry. I've also worked on some renewable projects that are becoming really popular again. I did some of those when they weren't so popular. But I also do a lot of commercial lending transactions. It's sometimes hard to explain because people say, you do contracts. I said, no, there's a lot more to that than that. But there's definitely a lot of heavy negotiation. And despite it not being litigation, it does get kind of hairy, and it gets kind of tough sometimes when you deal with lawyers who are just determined that they want their way. So I think law school gives you a lot of good tools to deal with that. Glad to be here.
Yeah. You know, being a first generation lawyer is special in that you really didn't have somebody in the family to look at to, you know, kind of model yourself after. And you know, while I think that's unique and special, it comes with its own set of challenges. One of the first questions I want to pose to you all is, what made you decide you wanted to go to law school? So Chevazz?
Well, I kind of owe it to a guy named Bobby Donnell. Most of y'all are probably too young to know who that is, but he was the lead character on a law television show called The Practice that was popular in the late 90s and early 2000s. And I remember it was my junior, maybe it was my senior year in college, where, you know, I was thinking to myself, okay, what am I going to be? And I love the show. I love his character. And he was a trial lawyer. Obviously, there's a lot of drama because it was a award-winning television show. And I said, I want to be him, and did my research and said, you know, this is the path to becoming a lawyer. And this is some of the things that lawyers do. And then, you know, I you know, embarked on that journey, and you know, very, very fortunate that, you know, looking at it now, it was the right path for me. So that's how I decided to become a lawyer.
Okay, what about you, Jessie?
So yeah, being you know, the first in my family to go to college, you know, I kind of set the bar as high as I could for myself, and I always knew that I wanted to get a graduate degree. When I was studying mechanical engineering, I thought maybe, you know, I'd work as an engineer and then get an MBA. That was something that I was kind of interested in business. It wasn't until my senior year, graduating, and some of my close friends, we were, you know, talking about what we're going to do, and I'm like, man, we're getting jobs, we're going to be engineers. You know, where are you guys going to work? What are you going to do? And they're like, well, we're going to go to law school. I'm like, law school? We're engineers. What are you going to do in law school? And that's when they started talking about patent law and the opportunity of that field, and how you get to kind of merge, you know, learn the law, but you still get to use a lot of the engineering skills that we learned in our undergraduate. And, you know, I started researching it a little bit more, and I thought it was a cool area of law. And I, you know, something that I could still, again, use the technical skills that I learned with that. I still worked for a couple of years for an oil and gas company after I graduated, before I went to law school. And I found that has been a tremendous benefit for me, especially in the area of law that I practice, because a lot of my clients are engineers and scientists. And when I sit down, I'm talking to them about their inventions and their designs that they came up with. So it helps that I have that technical background. It helps that I can understand and speak their language on an engineering level. And it helped that I had some practical experience. So, you know, whenever they're showing me if it's a tool or any kind of design, then I can sometimes point at it, talking about it. Oh yeah, this does this and this does that. And they're like, oh yes, this lawyer he kind of knows what he's talking about a little bit from the technical side. So that's really kind of what got me interested in law school. But again, I just initially just wanted to get an advanced degree, and I'm just happy that law opened up a lot of opportunities, and patent law field has been really fun. And again, I still get to merge, learn the legal side, but still on a day-to-day basis get to use a lot of the engineering skills and engineering knowledge that I obtained.
Awesome, thank you. Ephraim?
So I never even thought about going to law school. You know, I was going to undergraduate college on a part-time basis for the most part because I had a family. I started a family early and started working early, and I had a really good job. I really liked school, and I just kept plugging away at it. And I was in my last semester finishing up my tax accounting class, preparing to take my CPA exam. And my tax professor says, you know, you're going to take a big cut in pay to go straight into accounting from here. So what you ought to do is just go ahead and go to law school because you'll at least stay even as far as your income goes. If you work hard, make good grades, and get a good job. I said, that sounds pretty risky, but, you know, I went home, did some research and thought about it. And it was because of his encouragement that I decided to go. And I'm very thankful that I did that. I did wait another 6 months to take my CPA exam and get through that, which was a horror story. But it helped me, and during that time I was working in the refinery business. I never really planned on doing oil and gas finance transactions, but somehow it just worked out. And you know, the lingo really, you know, it's just kind of a different language when we work in my industry. So it all kind of merged perfectly, and because I really did like the accounting part, and I really liked the finance part. So to come out and get a job in oil and gas, and mainly on the finance side, is nothing but a blessing because I really enjoy it.
Awesome. So you start law school, and you know, immediately you're hit with not just incredibly difficult classes, but you know, you also hear about all these extracurricular activities like law review and moot court, things like OCI or judicial internships or clerkships. I know for me, speaking from personal experience, I knew I wanted to go to law school, but once I got in, I had no idea what any of those things were. And I certainly didn't know the importance of those things. Did you guys know the importance of those things? And if not, you know, who kind of put you onto it and told you that that was something you needed to do if you did it?
You know, if you don't mind me starting, when I got out of law school, I swore to myself that I was going to start a business that focusing on help training law students before they start law school and teach them what's important and teach them what they need to know. You know, things like OCI, they're so time sensitive, they're crucial. And everybody will tell you how crucial those are, that you got to be at the right place at the right time. You got to be prepared for that. And if you're not, and you know, you have to discuss those with people. I think you'll hear from the people from the law schools that, you know, for those spring starts, you know, you get kind of juggled and you could get missed in the mix if you're not careful. But those kind of things, just what you really expect, you know, that if you could hear about the competition of being in law school, if you could hear about how important that first exam really is, and just the studying mechanics to be prepared like you need to be prepared, which is, as y'all know, is completely different than anything we've ever trained for, right? So yes, there's a lot of obstacles, and I think it's really difficult if you don't really have an inkling of an idea of what all that is about. And I really think there's room for somebody or some people to start some kind of business that really focuses, and hopefully, you know, not somebody who's trying to gouge the system or scare students to death, because there's enough of that going on out there, right? But something that really has a lot of good practical aspects to hand some tools to incoming students so they know what to expect. It was definitely a lot to learn in a very short time span.
See you, Chevazz. I want to chip in and say something.
Yeah, and just for point of clarification, Sophia, are we talking about activity within law school or activity right after law school?
Within.
Okay. So I generally knew that it was important to do those things. You know, Nasleen, for example, at South Texas will tell you that that's the type of information that, you know, they're disseminating to the students. So we generally know, or I generally knew, but which ones specific or which ones that were beneficial to me, I did not know. I chose to do mock trial because I like to be on my feet, and it was less formal than moot court, and it didn't have the writing component. That benefited me, but I did not do the law review. But it does help in terms of, you know, being, you know, your marketability and attractiveness to law firms. But I would say It did give me some skills, but really what it really did is it created an opportunity for me to meet people and, meet friends that I keep in touch with to this day. And I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but it's those opportunities, I think, that are the most important in the practice of law.
Yeah, and I'll chime in on this question as well. Being an engineer, I was very technical in my approach to it initially. And my thought was, all right, I'm going to law school. What are my goals, right? My three main goals are to pass law school, pass the bar, and get a job, right? And what is it going to take for me to accomplish those three things? And so when even when I was taking the LSAT and just anticipating going to law school and leading up to before even starting, I would just research, internet research, read books. And then anytime I could find somebody who even remotely knew of a lawyer, because I didn't have any lawyers in my family or I didn't know any close personal friends that were lawyers, I would reach out to them and talk to them. And one of the other biggest things that helped out a lot was reaching out to law school students. When I finally was applying to some of the local law schools, I reached out to the schools and said, hey, are there any students that I could talk to just kind of feel about law school in general? And I would ask them these questions, how are you preparing yourself to pass the bar? How are you preparing yourself to get a job? And that's when I started learning about all of the activities that you just mentioned. I would hear, oh, you got to have some good summer clerkships. You got to be involved in some good organizations. You got to be on law review. I didn't even know what law review was. And it helped talking to all these different people about, what it is you need to do and all these activities to participate in. Obviously you got to keep the grades up and take bar classes. I'm like, bar class, I didn't really kind of make the connection. What is a bar class until, I started kind of getting explained what it is. And then, so that's kind of how I found out about all of these activities. And then when I got in law school, it's just a matter of, trying to go, I tried a lot of different things. I tried to participate in a lot of different organizations. I tried to go out for the law review, things that I felt I was comfortable doing. Again, I always had more of the transactional, mindset. So I didn't really partake in the moot court or mock trial, because I know that was a little bit more of the litigator type skill set. But I participated in a transactional skills course, at South Texas, and I did the Hispanic Law Students Association. I participated in that, and I just kind of did things that I felt I was comfortable doing, that I enjoyed doing, because in law school, as everybody knows, your time is very limited. And I wanted to have a well-rounded experience in law school and also develop a well-rounded resume, so that I felt when it was time to start looking for jobs, I would get some good opportunities. So that's kind of how I found out about it. And don't be shy when you're in law school. Ask, I went and talked to people who were on the moot court and mock trial team just to get their experience and see what it was about. And then when I finally got out firsthand what it was all about, I was like, well, that sounds great, but probably not good for me. And so I just kind of looked at other things. So yeah, all of those are important, but that's kind of how I went about the approach. And I definitely would encourage you to get involved in the different things that you're interested in.
Thanks, guys. So, our group is made up of not just law students, but also people that have graduated and are waiting for bar results, people that have passed the bar and are still looking for a job. And then there's young attorneys who have just been practicing for a few years. So what I would like to do is, ask a question that I think will be more helpful to our law students and recent graduates. Tell me, how did you guys get your first job? And what do you think made you the most competitive candidate, how that helped you get that position?
I was fortunate enough to go through the OCI program and got a lot of good results out of that. South Texas does a good job of the OCI. Ultimately, I did get a job offer, but that was a job offer through OCI. But that was after I was sitting in oil and gas class one time, and we had a professor who was an adjunct, and I walked up to him one day and I said, all this stuff is really interesting, and it just crosses over a lot of the different areas that I like, including property and including oil and gas and including business to a large extent. He said, I asked him, how does somebody go about getting a job in this area? And he just flat out said, you know what? I know somebody looking for somebody with your kind of enthusiasm. thanks for coming up and talking to me. And he connected me with the right person. And that was the person who ended up being my mentor for 7.5 years. So I think in a lot of ways, it's upon you to really just ask, and look for any kind of opportunities like that. As Jesse says, there's no time to be shy out there when you're looking for a new job or looking to change job. And obviously, the more people that you can gather with, whether law organizations or school organizations, any kind of organizations, gives you that just more opportunities, in my opinion. So mine was kind of luck, but it was also about enthusiasm. And and when you interview for those jobs, people love to see the enthusiasm and the energy. And there's a lot to talk about there, right? But I think when you interview with people, I like to think that people aren't trying to interview you for the short term. They're interviewing you as a whole package. How can this person help me? Sure, you want the job, but also they want to fill a position with a person who they hope can be there for long term and fill their needs and make their job easier, right? So it's obviously a mutual relationship, but you have to be able to convince folks that you're that right person and you're the right person that can help meet their needs. And that's super important, I think.
I'll jump in on that one as well. So I did, my first summer, I did some judicial internships. I interned with 2 judges and they were unpaid, but I got school credit for at least one of them. And I found I got one through through a judicial internship opportunity program. I think the name has changed now, but it's a program through the American Bar Association. So I sought out an opportunity through that program. And then the other internship I got with a bankruptcy judge, was just through the South Texas Job Board. I think it was called Simplicity at that time. And then for my current job, I did OCI as well. My second year, I did OCI. I met with one of the partners at Patterson Sheridan on campus for a half-hour interview, and he invited me back for a second round and gave me a summer associate offer. I worked there my second summer, and I also was fortunate enough to get another clerkship as well, summer associate position. But at the end of my summer with Patterson Sheridan, they gave me an offer full-time, and I was fortunate to get one. I took it, and I've been at Patterson Sheridan the whole time. I'm very fortunate to have been at the same firm and developed a great practice there and became a partner a few years ago. But I did OCI. A lot of the advice that I give to students now is, OCI, really if you can distinguish yourself, one way to do it is if you have some good experience before you go back to law school that you can kind of spin. That was one thing that I think really helped me. Again, I didn't plan that because I wanted to go to school and I didn't know how beneficial that was going to be. But if you just go straight through, that's fine. But you need to know that your grades are going to be the most important thing in terms of success of OCI interviewing, in terms of just getting the interviews. And then after that, you just have to be able to have the personality and well-roundedness to be able to communicate and talk with people, have good interview skills, practice your interview skills, do your research on the firms that you're going to be interviewing with. So all of that helps. And if your grades aren't as good and OCI is probably, doesn't work out or give you the best opportunities, it's going to be what Ephraim said. You're just going to have to hustle. Get out there and network. It's about the contacts you make. It can be your professors at law school, individuals you meet at these local bar association activities. You always just kind of reach out there and increase your network. Now social media helps a lot. LinkedIn can connect you with a lot of folks. And even look for any opportunities where you can do unpaid internships or shadow an attorney for a day or two just to get that experience. And it's something that maybe when you're interviewing, if you do get an opportunity to interview, it's something you can kind of share, and you can kind of share that language, have the language to really talk about, hey, this is what I want to do. I shadowed an attorney in this practice area and I learned this, and this is really what I see myself doing down the line. that's one way that it'll help distinguish you from other folks that are interviewing for the same position.
And so what I'll describe, what Ephraim and Jessie are describing, is placing oneself in the path of opportunity. That's a term that my mentor told me back in the day, that you got to put yourself in the path of opportunity. You might not know exactly how it will happen, but if you do certain things, you create a really good likelihood that you'll land in a place that is good for you. My path is very similar to theirs. I found out through my career office at the law school that there's such a program with the HBA called the Minority Opportunities in the Legal Profession program, called MOLP. It's a different name now, but it worked to put first-year law students, minority law students, into law firms, and had no idea about how it worked. And that was my first introduction. I looked at the participating firms, and I applied to, I think, 3 at the time, one of which was Jackson Walker. And I was selected for an interview, and I interviewed and thought I killed it. I thought I did a very good job. And I remember being in class and getting a phone call from the hiring partner, and thinking I was going to get great news, but he thanked me for interviewing. They went with somebody else, but they liked me enough and they wanted me to keep in touch and reapply during OCI, the start of my second year. And this particular hiring partner, his name is Bruce Rosinski. He was the hiring partner at the time. He said, you know, Chevazz, I really like you. I want to introduce you to my friend Pauline Higgins. She is in-house counsel at Chase Bank. I want you to reach out to her. He gave her a call. I got an email from her, and within a few days, she asked me to come interview, and I did. And she selected me as one of the Chase Bank MOLP candidates. And I spent half of my summer with her, and then I spent the second half down in the Valley interning for the 13th Court of Appeals. Those were my 2 first legal experiences. And then when it came time to apply in my second year, Jackson Walker, you know, had kept in touch, interviewed with them, went through the process, and got my offer. And having had my experience in the courthouse at the 13th Court of Appeals, I thought to myself, well, I'm wondering if there's a district court that offers internships. And like Jessie said, there are. And I did. Through my school, I got credit for clerking or interning for Judge Hoyt here in the Southern District of Texas. I learned about this thing called a clerk, and that he was hiring. Applied to that and got it. So that, I would say, describes you know, how I put myself in the path of opportunity, knowing what resources were out there, being persistent about it, and just in the right place at the right time.
Now, using your term, putting yourself in the path of opportunity, one of the things I want to touch on is something that a lot of young attorneys really deal with. You know, for example, attorneys that work at mid to big firms, you know, eventually make a decision as to whether or not they want to remain on a partnership track, or, you know, they don't. But when you decide you want to eventually make partners somewhere, your focus shifts from being just, you know, billing as many hours as you possibly can to billing while also attempting to build your own book. You know, all 3 of you guys are partners somewhere. How did you build your book as a first generation attorney? Was it just pure hustle? Was it networking? What advice can you give young attorneys who are at that point in their career?
I feel like I'm fortunate to work at a firm that doesn't necessarily look at the kind of work that you brought into the firm when you're trying to make partner. Obviously, people look to see if you've done what you've been asked to do, right? And I try to remind people that the best way to look at it is when you're working for a partner or senior associate, if you're the younger associate, that they are your clients. if you can see the people that you work for as your clients and work hard for them when they need your help, that kind of helps create that road to success that you really need. It's really a lot of the same when you do get to the point where you have clients and you have clients that you work for directly, because most of the time when you're doing a project for somebody or whatever you're handling for somebody, they're relying on your answer to make their job easier. They're looking for an answer a lot of times to other people that they need to answer to. So if we can keep that in mind, that folks are relying on you, they're really expecting you to do a good job, whatever that might be. And if you can get that done, and you know, we're always looking for efficiencies, right? And that's what causes some of the stress sometimes. But hopefully law schools taught you to be an efficient person. Hopefully you've learned to use the resources around you to make you efficient. But you got to start out by looking at everybody as persons that you're trying to help as well. And those people will remember you. You know, if you become the go-to person in any particular area, and if people start being a path to your door, that's what you want to accomplish, right? You want people to see you as the go-to person. I've told people too, and I've told young associates too, that don't think you can't differentiate yourselves, because you can a lot of times. I tell people sometimes that when you're a young lawyer, if you can make yourself a bit of a small expert in any particular area, that people will really appreciate that, because so often, if you're in your particular area of work, there's always going to be little niches where people are looking for a little bit of an expertise. You know, when I was doing my finance work, I really dug in and learned all about the usury laws. And when people had usury questions, they would come to me and ask me those kind of questions. You know, people might have questions about the UCC. If you can become a bit of an expert in the UCC on particular collateral issues and those kind of things, folks will appreciate that. And you, once again, you kind of differentiate yourself from others. But that's what you ultimately want to do. You want to treat everybody as if they're your clients, and you want to do the best job, and you always want to be efficient, and you always want to deliver on time, and you want to over deliver when you can. It's not always about billing the most hours. That to me, at least in my experience, hasn't necessarily been you know, where all the truth lies. It's really about doing good work, being a good lawyer, being reliable, and delivering as you promise. And after you get that accomplished, and when you head toward partner, I think you'll be surprised how the opportunities for client development come about, because a lot of times, I think Jessie and Chevazz will tell you, most of the time, it doesn't come from where you're expecting it to. It doesn't come from the tree that you've been beaten on. It comes from some other source where you did a good job. Maybe you just don't remember what it was that you did, or you don't remember the person, but that person talked to another person who calls you up and says, hey, I need your help. It's really extraordinary how that happens.
This is Jesse. I'll go ahead, and I 100% agree with Ephraim. And from my perspective on developing a book of business, you know, there's a couple of ways. One, you can kind of grow some of your firm's existing clients. And the way that I did that is exactly what Ephraim said. I learned a very specialized area of patent law that I know a lot of other associates didn't really know, and I ended up kind of over time just becoming kind of the go-to person for that area of law, or whenever that question came up, that legal issue came up. Other partners with other clients would kind of say, "Hey, Jesse, I know that I heard that you know this. Can you help me out with this client?" And that helped grow businesses for maybe not necessarily my clients, but I say our clients as a firm, because it generated new work that we otherwise wouldn't have gotten because I was able to provide that service.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot. And then when you do get the opportunity, obviously the obvious thing is when they finally do decide to give you that work, you got to work your butt off, and make sure that you provide top quality service. I think communication skills are also important when business development, just be able to articulate what it is you do and how you can provide value and service to whomever you're talking to, what potential client you're talking with. And then the last thing in terms of building is, yeah, you know, like Ephraim said, you don't know where it's going to come from. So you got to get out there, network, whether it's bar associations, community civic associations, local associations, or national associations. And what I try and do is, you know, we're so busy, we all, you know, some of us have families and we're just busy with work all the time. I try and participate in activities where I kind of stick out. Where, so for example, the Houston Hispanic Bar Association is one example. You know, it's cool because I'm one of the few patent attorneys in a group of Hispanic attorneys that practice all areas of law. And so whenever somebody in that group has a patent question or an IP question, they know me through that organization. They're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna call Jessie. So it's different than going to, you know, a patent conference where there's just a bunch of patent attorneys around there. Doing things like that, try and get involved in things that you like and where you can kind of stick out and be the person, hey, if something comes up, they're gonna go to you because you're the person who knows that, you know, that area of law.
I'll just add that you know, there are different paths to building a book of business, and it really depends on a variety of factors, including but not limited to the type of work you do, the type of practice, the type of firm you're at, your personality, and I know for me, getting involved in things I had a genuine interest in and logical connection to allowed me to create sincere, genuine relationships with people. And it took a little while for me to understand that, you know, for a couple of years. And just so y'all know, just by nature, I'm very introverted. But, you know, I was pretty cavalier early on as a first, second year lawyer in that, all right, well, get out of this, you know, box that you tend to be in, get out there and meet people. And so I would just go to random events, go to a random happy hour, go to random this, and it was painful. Let me tell you, it was very, very painful. And I realized that, you know, you can't do this. You can't. It's not for you. So go back to the recipe that has worked for you in your life in different contexts. And that is, you know, being involved in things that I have a genuine interest in, logical connection to, whether it's a basketball team, the track team, you know, whether it's in organizations that I enjoyed being in. And so I did, you know, diversity and inclusion was one subject matter that's near and dear to my heart. Families is another subject matter that's near and dear to my heart. Military, you know, I'm an Army brat. My mom served 30 years in the Army. So I started getting involved in those type of organizations. And when you're in those organizations, working on goals surrounding those issues, and you're in that room with people who have that same level of passion, let me tell you, it's much easier to build those natural relationships. In those relationships, like any relationships, they grow. And at some point, you get to a point where your friends are in positions to send you work. You know, for example, earlier today, my friend Pooja Amin at Centerpoint called me up and may have an opportunity for me to get my foot in the door at Centerpoint. Her and I go way back. And that's one way that I've been able to get the little bit that I've got. I'm not quite there. I'm not Ephraim, not there yet. But that's one way. And another way is what Jessie said is, or maybe it was Ephraim, is, you know, subject matter expertise. Because I do a lot of real estate litigation within my firm, I've gotten this reputation as the guy to go to. And so internally, I would get a lot of referrals for real estate type litigation because it's a subject matter expertise that I can market. So those are some of the ways that I've gotten the little bit of work.
Sophia, if I can just add two minor points to that, based on some of the things Chevazz said, is like, one thing I want to point out is pure and direct client development. It's never going to be an easy task. It's never going to be a comfortable task. It's something that's hard. You're asking, if you do that kind of client development, you're asking people, give me some of your time because I want to sell myself to you. That's never going to be easy. It's always going to be difficult. And the only way it's going to be easier is for you to do it and do it and do it again until you get better at it. it's like anything else in life. If you want to get good at it, you just got to keep practicing it, even if it is uncomfortable. And one thing that Chevazz points out too, it's a great point, because a lot of times I get to meet people in my industry, and they're the business folks, and they may be just coming out of college, and they may be getting new jobs at banks or financial institutions or whatever. And I know they're dealing with a lot of the same stuff that young lawyers are dealing with too, right? They're in a new environment. They got to learn their way, earn their way. And what I tell some of those young business people a lot of times, I said, look, if you ever get to a point where you just want to pick up the phone and have a conversation about something that you don't understand that well in your industry, and you don't feel comfortable for whatever reason going to talk to the people around you, I say, call me up. I'll walk you through it. I'll talk with you about it. And I won't be charged or anything like that. I just want to let you know that I'm available for having a discussion like that. And those folks, as Chevazz says, at one point, they're going to get into the business decision levels, and they're going to remember. They're going to be beholden to you for that.
That's a great point. So, we're kind of running out of time, but we have decided that instead of going into breakout rooms, we kind of want to keep everyone here and open it up just for questions that you guys might have. So y'all feel free to chime in if you have a question. If not, I'm happy to keep asking questions. Y'all just let me know. So any questions? Hi, James.
The question is that my firm and my team actually have difficulties in finding people. Maybe because we post our job, they saw, okay, this firm with how to pronounce this last name. The fact they don't know is that we are doing quite well in international litigation and arbitration area. And so whether I think we maybe need to rebrand. Also, the question goes to like the senior partners, also the young lawyers and law students. So because it's a combination of a Vietnamese last name and a Chinese last name, so it's very difficult for us to, even we offer, this offer is not bad. I cannot say very, very good, but it's compared with other same size firm, we are doing not bad, very, very good, but it's very difficult. Maybe we have to rebrand it. So I want to listen to your advice. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do panelists have any advice?
Hey, James, this is Jesse. Just to clarify, are you looking for hiring?
Hey, Jesse.
Are you looking, you're having difficulty hiring young lawyers, or you're looking, having difficulty hiring like lateral experienced attorneys?
Both, very difficult. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can just give some advice on maybe for the young lawyers is, and maybe you've already been doing some of these activities, but get involved at the law school level. If it's hard for you to get the candidates to apply, definitely participate in OCI, but not just participate in the OCI on-campus interviewing, but maybe reach out to some of the student organizations there and sponsor one of their meetings, maybe just get some pizza and you kind of show up and you kind of get a presence of you and your firm and your organization on campus at the different law schools. And, when you're there, put the word out to the law school students and to the, the leaders of those student organizations. Say, hey, we sponsored these organizations. Hey, by the way, here's what we do. Hey, by the way, we're offering summer internships or full-time positions. I think that's one way to try and get on the ground locally within some of the law schools to get some more candidates for interviewing.
Yeah, I'll reiterate what Jesse is saying. Get in front of the school organizations. When I was the chair of the diversity committee at our firm, we would try to get as involved as we could. And we, before finals came around, we would send a box of cookies or a box of donuts, or as Jesse says, attend some of the meetings. They'll give you by the way, if you buy them lunch, they'll give you an opportunity to get in front of the class and speak to them and brand your firm and tell them what it is that they really ought to know, and say, even if this isn't for you, make sure you pass this information along to people that might be interested in the type of work that we do. They're a great resource for that. And if you ever say we're hiring, I can't believe there's not going to be a lot of people jumping up and down saying, here we are.
Thank you.
Yeah, and let me just comment on this for the law students and the young lawyers that are out there. Okay, this is a great example of the type of opportunities that are out there for you. And I think that at least, at least pre-COVID, I spent time speaking to a lot of law students and young lawyers. And I understand that 99% of y'all want to be at a big firm, making the big bucks like that. But the reality is that those opportunities are few and far between. They just are. But there are plenty of comparable opportunities out there, great legal work, great pay. And it takes some effort, that hustle, that word, I love it, to that perseverance to find those opportunities. And if James and his firm are doing what they need to do to make themselves known to law students, the law students can do the research, go on win-chin, I just went on there. It's clear that there is arbitration, litigation, and a specific focus on China practice. Recently, those employers specifically asking if there are any opportunities and putting yourself in the path of opportunity like that. I have a list of law firms that I developed myself so that when I meet with students, and some of those students are on this call, I provide that list. And my encouragement is to go on those law firm web pages, see what type of practice they do, reach out and see if there's opportunities. So that's just a great example of what you law students and young lawyers can be doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Any other questions?
I had a question. Hi, my name is Stephanie Gutierrez. I'm currently at 3L at Thurgood Marshall School of Law. So I feel like I've done everything right when it comes to achieving things in law school and experience. But now when it comes to this new COVID pandemic world, virtual world, what kind of new skills are employers looking for students and incoming attorneys to master or to be on a resume, so that way those new skills could be highlighted in my resume?
Let me give my quick thoughts. From my vantage point, I don't think that there are any specific new skills that employers are looking at. I think what COVID has done for law students, young lawyers looking for jobs, has made it that much more difficult. And one thing, your name and your face look very familiar, and I think we're connected on LinkedIn. And one thing that I noticed about you is you're pretty active on there, and I think that's intentional. And so I think that's a great example of how you have to market yourself in this day and age. The usual process it ain't gonna happen, for some time. So you have to look at those avenues. Social media. I'm on LinkedIn. Facebook. I'm not on Facebook, but that's a great place to meet people. Doing things like this is great. Putting yourself in the path of opportunity, as I described it earlier, is what you really need to be focused on, more so than finding what new skill law firms are looking for.
Yeah, I think I'd echo what Chevazz is saying. I don't think employers are necessarily looking for anything in particular related to COVID. Now, if you were in an employment law or things of that nature, they may be very discrete kind of projects. I know our firm is pretty busy in that area. But I think we have to just, in a more general sense, when we went through law school, and as you're going through law school, we went and you're going through a metamorphosis. You're not the same person you were before you got into law school. And believe it or not, you should be looking for that same metamorphosis between 0 years and 5 years coming out of law school, because there's so much that you should be learning and you will be learning through that 5-year period. And I'll just say that literally, I don't think I have ever met a lawyer who worked hard for the first 5 years coming out of law school that wasn't really successful. And maybe I'm just fortunate enough to meet a lot of great people, but I've talked to people in every area of law, from family law to criminal law to antitrust to I can't even mention all of them, bankruptcy. If you work hard out there, if you network, whether it's online or in person, and you connect with people and you let people know what you're looking for, and you just keep plugging away, you too, everyone on this screen will be successful if they're not successful already. It happens. It's a metamorphosis, and you just got to let it happen to a large extent, but you just got to keep doing all the things that you are doing.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in briefly as well. You know, again, I agree with Chevazz and Ephraim. There's nothing specific, and I'll just speak from my area of practice of law. And when we're looking at hiring, there's really nothing specific in response to COVID that we're looking for. But as Chevazz said, it's made it more difficult for you all to try and get out there because of COVID, because everybody's staying home. You're missing those in-person opportunities. I know Chevazz said earlier, kind of put yourself in passive opportunities. It's hard to do that if everybody's home. So you have to be creative about the other avenues that you're looking at. Definitely the social media and definitely activities like this. So you just kind of have to adjust your approach on how you're gonna create opportunities to get in front of other folks. But in terms of your changing up your resume or trying to do anything like that employers may want to see in response to COVID, I can't really think of anything other than just the basic skill sets that they're looking for.
Thank you. I think we've got time for one more question. Does anybody have a question?
Yeah, I had a question.
Sure.
Are any of the three panelists, did any of you guys do the part-time program when you were going to law school?
No, I didn't do the part-time program, but I know South Texas has a part-time program. I know U of H has a part-time program. Chevazz, does Thurgood Marshall have a part-time program? Mm-hmm. So South Texas and U of H both do. I had some really good friends that went through it. Yeah, did you have a specific question about it? I mean,
no, I was just looking for general advice. I'm a 2L at South Texas, and the part-time program is very difficult. And I was looking for general advice how to make it all work with the extracurriculars and the OCIs and full-time job and classes. So
yeah, unfortunately.
No, I mean, I feel for you. You have to work that much harder, and you ask yourself, how can I work that much harder? And somehow or another, you just have to be more efficient about the way you do things. I did drop down from full-time to part-time for one semester because I had to go back to work, but then I tried to make that up during the summer only because I wanted to graduate on time of what I had anticipated. But yes, unfortunately, you just have to work that much harder and be that much more efficient and get your name out there all the much more.
Sarah,
but never underestimate the value of your job and what you're learning at your job, and that being on your resume too. That's invaluable, of course. There's a lot of firms like my firm. We put a lot of value on people who have prior work experience, because if you think about it, in a lot of ways, we're getting a candidate that has a whole lot more experience for basically the same price, right? So there's nothing but positive value in that.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I was actually going to touch on what Ephraim said. It's so beneficial to have work experience. Like before law school, it just makes you such a competitive candidate. That's kind of how I got my first clerkship when I was in law school. I didn't do the part-time program, but I was a single mom in law school, and I didn't have a choice. I had to work, and I needed to work for money. So I was like, the internships where they were offering school credit, that wasn't going to work for me. It wasn't an option. I had a son to take care of. So, I know what it's like to go to school full-time, work full-time, run your own personal life, and then still do the extracurriculars and all that. It is exhausting, but I do know people that have done the part-time program. And if you want to put your email in the chat, I can send you some contacts so you can maybe connect with them.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this is Jessie. Other thing I want to share is again, I know it's very specific to the employee that you're working with, but we actually had a summer associate who was working full time and was able to take work out with their employer, who was very supportive of that person pursuing a law degree, and knowing that when that person, you know, graduated, they may move on to another employer, that was supportive enough to let that individual take some time of leave to do an internship with our firm. And so I just know that individuals just try to keep the lines of communication open with their current employer, and you know, kind of planned everything out and said, hey, would you mind if I try and go after this opportunity, whether it's doing maybe even just doing a judicial clerkship, not necessarily working for another firm, but just, and again, if you're able to do that, right? I know everybody, you have to pay the bills, and sometimes it's hard to do that, but those are other things to kind of think about.
Yeah, and I work for a law firm, so that definitely helps.
Yeah.
I'm already working for attorneys who you would think would be more understanding about law school, and, you know, clients and all the law firm things that come along. So
Yeah. But definitely, you know, more power to you. I had a lot of friends who were in the part-time program, and yeah, I know that having a full-time work and full-time school is it's tough. So keep up the good work.
All right, well, it's 7:06 now, so I'm going to hand it over to Adela, who is going to handle the door prizes.
Yeah, so another shout out, thanks to Denise Peterson. She donated 2 bottles of this very nice looking wine. I'm not sure how it looks like it's from New York, and I can't pronounce the name, but we have 2 bottles, and so we're gonna raffle these away. And so I'd like to ask our speakers, I'll start with Chevazz. Could you pick a random number between 1 and 7?
7.
7? Okay, Brittany Asaju. I don't know if that's how you pronounce your name, but Brittany.
Yes, that is it.
I'm sorry?
Yes, you pronounced it well.
Okay, cool. Could you put your email address in the chat box, and then I will get in touch with you on getting this bottle of wine to you. And then we also have a second bottle. So Jessie, would you mind picking a number between 1 and 6?
2.
To Mariah Noyola. You still here? Yes. Congratulations. And so Mariah, if you could also put your email address in the chat box, I'll get in touch with you and Brittany on delivering these bottles. So thank you guys. Thank you to all of the participants for attending. Thank you so much for all of the speakers for taking time out of your day and joining us. There are a lot of helpful insights and tips, and we really appreciate your time and your insights into practicing being a first-gen law student, a first-gen attorney, and we really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much.
And just so you know, I've known Jessie and Chevazz long enough to know that you can call those guys, and you can call me at any time with any kind of question or things that you want to talk about, and I know they'll make time available to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.